One of my favorite things in the world to do is watch Friends. I know it's been off for years and years. It's not even around, but I still find myself binge watching old episodes. And I was thinking about this today and thinking, it's the predictability of the friends in the circle, right? You have Chandler with his quirkiness, Monica with her type A of just everything has to be so neat and tidy and organized. It's Phoebe's ability to make you laugh at her silly songs. Ross always comes in with those smart comments, and Joey and him and his food, like it is just so hilarious. And of course, Rachel, she just brings everybody together, and it's just such this beautiful, cohesive team of people. And it's why I wanted to come on and share with you today that I have an opportunity for you to find your friends in the content creation space. So if you are thinking about creating your first or your next digital course, I don't want you to miss this opportunity because Amy Porterfield just opened the doors for registration for her Course Confident Bootcamp. And I'm actually offering a special bonus for anyone that registers for the Course Confident Bootcamp through my special link. So I want you to go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register. That's crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And what you're going to find when you get there is I have this special bonus private podcast series. It's called Money Mindset for Creators. So I want you to go register for Amy's bootcamp, download the podcast, and immediately start listening to it, because what this training is set up to do is to help you get your mind right about monetizing your content, making money so that you can fuel your content creation dreams. So go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register for Course Confident. And I cannot wait for you to find your friends and find the people that will be there for you. Do you see what I did there? Yeah, nice little friends segue connection. Go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And I cannot wait to see you inside. Okay, let's get into today's episode. Today's episode is like, I'm already smiling. I'm actually like giggling because, I find myself back in the closet. I am recording today's episode old school. I literally have my Tascam recorder and my handheld microphone like I am emceeing a game show. I always feel like Bob Barker, The Price is Right. And there's a reason why. My husband is home working today. We have a sick kiddo and the show must go on. So my husband's in the office and that's where my normal setup is. And I thought, you know what? I am just going to go get some content planned, which is what I've been doing while my little man has been watching Despicable Me on repeat. I think he's seen all of them today. Yes, we're that family. Like, yeah, I know you don't feel good. We're just going to watch TV today. And so I was like, I'm going to sneak away. I literally told him, I was like, I'm going to go into the closet. If daddy needs me, tell him that's where I am. I'm in there recording. And he looked at me like, okay. So that's a little update, little behind the scenes of what's going on behind the Profit podcast today. But what we're talking about is why you, as a creator, need to stop putting your content in a box. So let's get right to it. Welcome to the Profit Podcast, where we teach entrepreneurs how to start, launch, and market their podcast. I'm your host, Crystal Profit, and I'm so excited that you're here. Thanks for hanging out with me today, because if you've been trying to figure out the world of podcasting, think of this show as the time-saving shortcut you've been looking for. So let's get right to it, shall we? So there's this thing that happens when creators start their journey. Maybe you've been podcasting for a while. Maybe you've been creating YouTube content. Maybe you've been creating stuff on social media, and you get into a groove. You get into the flow, right? As like the creative community likes to call it. Like you're in your flow, you're in your zone, And then all of a sudden you kind of look up and you're like, I don't really like this process anymore. Or maybe you've been doing it for so long that when a new idea comes along, you're very, very hesitant to even consider it because you're like, that's not part of my process. That's not part of my, like what I actually do. And I think that people get scared to change things up. It's like once you start on your journey one way, you can't change things as things go. Like you're on this track of creating content. It's always been done this way. That's how you will always do it forever and ever. Amen. Who told you this? Like who told you that was the only way to create content? Where did this initial belief come from? Because I meet a lot of you. I meet a lot of y'all. I am in several communities. I am invested in partnerships and collaborations where I get to see other people's communities as well and the questions that people ask. And, I have a story of a friend of mine who came to me. She was so frustrated and she was like, I hate doing show notes on my website. I absolutely hate them. They make me cringe when I even think about it. And it's actually held up her production of her show because she said, I can't do my podcast without my show notes. And I was like, well, where did that come from? What if you just don't do them? And she looked at me like laughingly and was like, well, what do you mean if I don't just do them? Like that's what I've always done. That's the process. I always do show notes when I put out a podcast episode. And this is where I'm going to kind of converge a few different thoughts and ideas. So bear with me here for a second. But yes, I love consistency. Yes, I love when you start doing something one way and then you just keep doing it. But at the end of the day, I will always prioritize sloppy consistency over perfection. Like if you've been around here for a hot second, I'm anything but perfect. Y'all, I'm literally sitting in the floor of my closet. I'm literally sitting in the floor of my closet. I feel like I've graduated a little bit from being surrounded by laundry. There's still laundry all in this closet. There's actually dirty sheets and towels right next to me. I was leaning against them a second ago and I thought they were clean. And I was like, oh, this towel smells like mildew. That is not clean. So I had to adjust a little bit. But I tell you all this to let you know, perfection is so far from my vocabulary. So even though you will develop a system, even though you will develop processes and so many incredible things that will make creating your content easier, there will come a day when you can't get it all done the way it's, quote, supposed to be done, the way that would be perfect. Again, I'm using quotations. I wish you could see me in my really aggressive hand quotes, but it's never going to be perfect, y'all. It's never going to be perfect. Actually, I have another great example of this. Okay, so I'm going to get a little technical for just a second, but I use Camtasia for my video software. And I was just getting started when I was integrating my new camera that I got last year. I got this really awesome Sony 4K camera, and I wanted to use that while I screen recorded and where if you've ever seen any of my YouTube videos where I'm sharing my screen, but you can also see my face and you can hear me, like that whole setup is done within Camtasia. But because I'm using my podcast microphone, whenever I record in Camtasia, it only does it on mono, or it does it in stereo. So it means if you listen to it, it would go between your left ear, like one AirPod and not both of them. Or if you're listening on just your speaker, it would be fine. It probably wouldn't sound that bad. But if you have in headphones, you're like, why am I only hearing her on one ear? Well, it's because I have to mix everything down to mono. So yeah, I know it's getting a little bit more technical. I didn't know this. This is one of those things you learn by trial and error. I did not know this. I still get comments on this one particular video, and people will say, I can only hear this in one ear, or this video, the audio of this video is terrible, and all these other things. And I laugh because I'm like, yeah, it's a mistake. You're seeing in real time a mistake that I've left it out there. I've put comments in the bottom saying, yeah, I messed up the audio, haha. I'm a big dummy. And I keep moving. I'm sure there's other nasty comments that happen in there, but I just chalk it up to, it was sloppy consistency is what it was. It was me being consistent over my need for perfection, because if I was trying to be perfect, if I was trying to keep my content in that pretty little box that I, theoretically always thought that my content should be in, the perfectionist box, then I wouldn't have this video up there that has a few hundred views. I don't know. It could have a few thousand views. I know it has a few hundred views. It's still really good content, even if it's not the best audio quality, the best video that I've ever put out there. I think at the end of the day, you have to remember that it's your content. You can do whatever you want. And even if you do get started on one track, you don't have to continue that forever and ever. You don't. So if you've been looking for permission, if you're like, oh man, I started my show and I publish every Tuesdays, but Tuesdays really don't work out for my schedule. And if I moved it to Fridays, man, if I could just move my show to Fridays, it would make my schedule in my personal life and professional life so much better. Move your show to Fridays. Or if you've been doing solo episodes forever and you're like, this is really dang hard. It's so hard. I wish I could do an interview. Switch to an interview show. Or if you're like, you know what? These hour-long episodes are just starting to really drain me. I think I want to break it up over a few episodes. Do it. Or if you're creating YouTube videos right now and you're just like, man, I started off publishing 2 to 3 videos a week and it's overwhelming. I thought by now I would have hired an editor and that didn't work out. I'm doing this all myself. So I'm just going to I don't know. Maybe I should just quit. No, you shouldn't quit. Take time off if you need to. I'm going to link to an episode that I've done about pod fade. I did a video about it too. This could be applied to any type of creator, but it's where you see the overwhelm set in, and it's perfectionism. Like perfectionism is crippling. It's crippling an entire generation of creators because you feel like unless it's perfect, you can't put it out there. Y'all. You can listen to this podcast. You can go look at my Instagram. You can read my emails. You can look at every single piece of content that I've created and you can find flaws in it. But I was introduced to this concept a few years ago, but it was Brooke Castillo was on Amy Porterfield's podcast, and she is like the life coach school, and I don't really follow her that much. And I've heard good things and bad things here and there about the things that she teaches and what she stands for. But what I heard from the message that she shared on there was, whatever happened to a B- being good enough? And let's just be real frank. I was always an A student. Like, I held myself to that bar. It was not like, oh, I just got A's. It was like, no, you're going to get A's, like, or like something bad's going to happen to you. My parents never threatened me. Like, I'm going to take your car away. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. They didn't have to. I was always really hard on myself. And so this concept of doing B- work was like, what? I would never do anything that is subpar or below expectations or not perfect. This is how I went into my journey. And then I realized, you know what? B- still gets a lot of views. B- still gets a lot of listens. B- really is who you are. Like, if you were to judge me on a scale of who I am as a person, and it was like, you know what? She does B- work. I'd be pretty okay with that. I really would, because I'm juggling lots of things. And some places, things have to, it's the give and take of being a mom, being a wife, being a creator, owning a business, being a sister, being a daughter, trying to be a friend. It's like all these multifaceted pieces of who you are as a human. And perfectionism just doesn't live there anymore. And so if you've really been struggling with putting your own content in a box, you're like trying to put it up on the shelf as like this beautiful thing that your systems and your processes are perfect and this is how it has to be done, and you're stressing yourself out. That's really what it all comes down to. You're either not putting your content out because you think it's not good enough, it's not, quote, good enough, or you're just stressing yourself out so bad. Why don't you just, like, I invite you to come sit on the floor. Like, maybe that should be a t-shirt. Like, come sit on the floor of the closet and record your next piece of content. I've recorded videos in this closet. I've recorded podcast episodes in here. I have done some brainstorming in here. And this is also the same place whenever I need to like take a chill pill. And, you know, if like something's going on personally in the house, like the kids are being crazy, and I'm like, you know what, Mama just needs a second. I will come to my closet and take a deep breath, because this is where I don't have to be perfect. And I don't think you should have that standard for yourself either. So I'm going to encourage you to stop putting your content in a box. Stop putting it in a glass box on a shelf, and this is the thing that you're aiming for. Like, just be you and record in your closet if you must. Record, you know, outside when you're going on a walk. I've recorded podcast episodes where I was like, you know what? I was, especially in the beginning of 2020, when things first started changing and happening and there was so much uncertainty, I recorded YouTube videos on walks. I recorded podcast episodes because I just needed to get out of the house and like be alone and just step away from everything for a second. So if you've been feeling any of that perfectionism, really like, it's right at it's like chomping at the bit to just really overtake everything that you're working so hard to create. Take a deep breath, sit on the floor of your closet and create something that is not perfect, and be okay with it. But that's all I have for you today. So I'm going to have some good resources linked in the show notes. I'm actually going to link to that episode of Online Marketing Made Easy because it was really good. It was that thing that I needed to hear. Maybe it's what you need to hear. I'm also going to link to the video about pod fade and just some other things about not letting perfectionism hold you back. Don't put your content in a box that can never be changed, never be like pivoting on your path or anything like that. I hope that this encourages you to be more fluid, be more flexible in your content creation journey. But that's all I have for you today. So the show notes for today's episode are crystalprofit.com/episode 332. And I would love it if you would take a screenshot where you're listening to this episode, share it out on social media, tag me in Instagram stories, let me know what your number one takeaway was, and I would be happy to reshare it across our platforms because I think it's so fun to hear back from y'all and really just the engagement of this community. I'm just so grateful for the people that are here and y'all are excited about what we are creating on the Profit Podcast and going on this journey together. So one more time, crystalprofit.com/episode 332. And as always, remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. Hey, Profit Podcast listeners, thanks for sticking around to a little bit after the episode to hear this special message because I want to hear from you. We are starting a new segment called Fan Mail Shoutouts, and I want to hear from you and I want to hear your questions. What do you want to know? What questions have you been dying to ask me? So here's how to make this happen. Go to the app where you're listening to this podcast right now. Go there. I'll wait a second. Okay. Now, once you're there, you're going to see a hyperlink at the top of the episode description that says, send Crystal a text message. And that's all I want you to do. Send me a text. It could be casual, informal. It could be totally anonymous, or If you want, you can include your name and the name of your podcast or content wherever you are creating, and I will give you a special shout out in an upcoming episode. So again, go to the show notes for where you're listening to this episode right now, and it will say, send Crystal a text message, and I cannot wait to hear from you and give you a shout out in an upcoming segment of fan mail shout outs.